Thank you for coming, Torben. This is the Sensitive Biker podcast, and this is a new episode of Close Up and Personal. And will you introduce yourself?
Yes, yeah, but thank you, Thomas. It's a little bit. I'm a little nervous. It's the first time I'm telling my story in English. But yeah, my name is Torben, and I guess it's important to say that I'm an alcoholic and I'm an addict. I am 30 years old. Have one kid. I normally say two, and I do believe in two. I have a girlfriend which have a kid from a previous relationship, and then work-wise, I have I call it a fancy title as operational director onshore for a company that we do subcontracting, putting up wind turbines actually. So, and that is a little different than if I go 5 years back. Then it was completely opposite. So yeah, I don't know.
What would you tell us about your background and what led to your demise and how you got out of it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it's yeah. If I take like a general speak, I think I was about to say I can like skip the boring part about my childhood, and then still it's a little bit an important part of it. My mom and dad got divorced. I don't even recall them being together actually. So I must have been extremely young, and I think one of the things looking back that affected me a lot was my mom's new boyfriend, which definitely wasn't a nice person. I will see if I can remember to come back to that. But definitely that put some scars in me. I think when I like think about it today, because then like growing up in the school, I was very like nervous child. I think I had a big need for feel like being loved basically, and I think when I go back and look at that whole part, I think actually already in my yearly age, my first reaction was anger, because that was the easiest way. And I have this weird episode that almost sounds so crazy when I say it out loud today, that I think it's around the first couple of grades. I wasn't allowed to be in some kind of gym session playing soccer or something. And my first reaction was actually to go up and take a bread knife and go back, and I kind of recall the situation that I was like, it was my like way of thinking that I want to join in here, but I wasn't allowed because I was too like aggressive. And then my first option was that one. And then actually quite early there, I got like this. I think I don't know what the English word is, but I got like an extra teacher following me around for a short period. And then after that, I guess I kind of also learned to control that and myself. That already happened around sixth, seventh grade. And I don't know if you're allowed to say it like today, but you have like this group, or at least when I was young, like you have like the nerds and you have the popular, and somehow I always managed with my people skills, I would call it, like find myself in the middle. And then I would like have interest in like the elegant gent or whatever computer science of it, and then I still would play football, and I think there already I kind to like navigate it, and then I can also feel always had that desire to also be something that I was not, and definitely I wanted to like be another person. I have some flashbacks I keep coming back to. Now with your own background, I know your background, of course. I went in ninth grade. I wrote in my like education plan that I wanted to be a biker, or rocker as we call it in Danish. And that was like also there was some truth in it, because already around eighth grade I was kicked out of the first school, and I moved, and it kind of gave me the opportunity to take on that like picture, or like become another person. Actually, I went from being in the middle, and then suddenly I could pretend to be like one of the popular kids that was like, start smoking behind the gym, and also yeah, how
But
do you say that? It's
sorry, you said earlier you were kind of nervous when you were younger. Uh,
yeah,
where did all that stem from? Which was there abuse or drugs in the house, or what were your
yeah,
childhood like at home?
yeah. I had a few talks with my mom, because I recall especially this boyfriend that was like locking us in an apartment, and she kind of confirmed that. And in my first rehab, out of a few actually, I actually did tell my life story a little bit wrongly, but there was some truth in it. I remember there's like my mom like put fire to a curtain, but I have the real story today, which actually also makes me more calm. She threw some kind of keys, and though that whole like part of it is really clear for me. And then I have like pressured down some memories about her being beaten, for example, and that I would call my dad, and he would come and pick me up actually, but he would obviously leave my mom. And I'm getting a little emotion just speaking about, because I also remember one of the things I remember the most clearly is like I would be crying at night when I was there, and I remember my bed had like a lot of like from me biting basically with my teeth because I didn't know what else to do. And when she come in to like comfort me, he would come in and drag her out of the room, like saying that first of all I was a boy, and she was not allowed in there, and those things, yeah, kind of like at somewhere deep inside of me, as I said, it's a little bit tough to talk about. That's why I like skipped it so fast. And there is like, as I said, I would come back to, there was some funny footnotes. I remember him like this huge monster, and I quite quickly also became that mindset that I wanted to like go to the gym and be big enough to like. And when I meet him, I fantasize. I have to say, even in my good periods, I fantasize of what I would do to him when I finally like found him. And a little bit by coincidence, because he had a daughter himself, she reached out to me 10 years ago, and we got in contact actually, and kind of become friends. And I did show up at his daughter's new daughter's confirmation actually, and I saw him for the first time since I was 6, in the year of what, around 30, right? And he looked so weak, for drug abuse, alcohol, and I'm honestly so glad I did it today, because that big black monster kind of I had in my head, he was just a poor broken man. And yeah, but what can I say? I also almost feel a little bit sad for him, but on the other hand, he had so. I actually mentioned it. He died already a few years later, because he wrote to me if there were some things that with my pictures on, and if I were interested, and it's like no. And when I told my mom, even so many years after, she was like, now I can relax. So it was,
Hmm.
yeah. That, and as I said, today, and this was also because I like to think I had like a normal childhood, and then not really, right? Because of this, she have a really nice, lovely husband today that she's been with ever since. She had a daughter, my little sister, and is a completely different place today, of course. And my mom was extremely young, by the way. I think she was 19 or 20 when she got me. Um, and then now you got me started about the details, because my dad is like way older than her. I think he's been in his around 30 or 30 something, and she was 19, 20 years old. And my dad is also, we're extremely close, but we do not speak feelings, and we never had. And I think almost up until today, I still speak with my dad daily, but never about feelings. And I remember him saying, for example, like, it's only like stupid kids or something that get like tattoos and are bald. By the way, this is by natural, so not not much I can do today, right? But
Uh,
he was also like very very like tough, and if you ask my mom, he was a man. He was like, a woman do the dishes and stuff. Not that he would ever hurt a woman, at least not. No, I would know that he's not that kind of type, but he was like strict, and emotion was not something we have ever spoken about.
mm,
It also means I kind of was, without him knowing, a little scared of him, but also respect him a lot. And even up until today, I always ask for like advice. But also, I think a combination of those things also means that I'm always striving for that next one. Always need to be like that 1% better, and it's just never enough for me. And even now on my like own, like I'm paying out of my own pocket. I'm going to these therapists, and I have been involved in something called Inner Child, where I had this old boyfriend of my mom up, and yeah, I'm getting a little bit off track, and I need to mention I have ADHD, so I like then I go in that way, and then suddenly I lost the point.
it's okay. It's
But
all interesting. So,
yeah, exactly. So, and in that whole aspect, for example, right now, and that's why I texted you about like these diagnoses, because my therapist, she's very keen on putting something like borderline on me, and I said like the first time I was like, if you say that word again, I'm out of here, because for me borderline is something like with a YouTube video and some science, and I was like, no, not even close. The
but
ADHD I acknowledge,
mm,
and obviously I'm aware, and I probably knew it for many years. I didn't get the diagnosis until as an adult,
okay.
which is ironic because I always have this funny story that I don't know what, like one-on-one conversation with your teachers in school that you do. And I hated them because it was always the same. I could like, before even going in there, I would be told that Torben knows how to do it. He just don't want to do it. He's a clever boy. He's like, just. So I was being told that I was not good enough, but I was clever enough. And looking back, that's why I'm smiling now. It's like it all makes sense for me because they're probably right. Either it was too boring, or if it didn't catch my interest,
But,
it's like
but
I would like leave it.
borderline, but borderline. It's funny you say that because uh, the symptoms between borderline and PTSD is very,
Mm,
very, very similar. And at least in Denmark, I don't know how it is in America and other places, but in Denmark, there's a lot of women that got misdiagnosed with borderline, but actually they
mm,
have PTSD. Uh,
yeah,
and men having borderline, that's very uncommon. It happens, of course. There are men that has borderline, but it's not very common. Mostly it's trauma because of PTSD. But
mm,
it's been kind of. It seems like in Denmark, at least, where if you have some problems and you maybe has flashbacks and stuff like that, then you have borderline. Like it's just,
yeah,
and I don't know why that's an easier stamp to give someone than PTSD, but for some reason that's how it is in Denmark. At least that's my experience with the
yeah,
people
and
I
and
talk to. So I think it's a good idea for you to hold on to that one because that might be a false diagnosed for you, I think.
yeah, and you can also be right, because I also have an incident later in my life, and actually a few where I wouldn't like rule it out. But on the other hand, it's, as I said, I do see the world is black or white for me, and I always, it's the same when I played football. It's like either I'm a defender or I'm an attacker, because that one, the things in between doesn't really work for me actually. Um, but about that school, it was always, and I remember my mom saying, when we get a good one, we go to McDonald's, and up until today, I never been to McDonald's. So because it was the same, it was like 100% certain every time, and yeah, horrible experience. It's yeah, but that's the way it is. But to finish then the school, as I said, I moved to ninth grade, and then there actually, I think I did actually try alcohol quite early on like a vacation, like most kids, and that, funny enough, is really clear to me, like how I felt. But I didn't get like that. You hear some alcoholics saying that, I took away everything. No, no, I was sick as fuck, but I think I was 8, 10 years old. And then I actually kind of didn't touch it until eighth grade, probably because my dad, I was a little scared of him. And but then when I finally did around eight, end of eight and into ninth grade, it just escalated. I remember already in ninth grade, I was smoking weed daily, having these blackouts, already in ninth grade. And I remember my percentage of not being in school was around 68 in ninth grade, and actually somehow I managed to do some pretty decent exams. And there actually I met the first like other like adult person that also, at least a teacher. I have like two teachers that actually, maybe they don't even know, but they mean a lot for me today. I also have one teacher that definitely don't, also in ninth grade, because when I was kicked out and moved, I had like one math teacher that was like in front of the whole classroom, like, you're never becoming anything. Like at like thinking about it, I understand his frustration. I was doing everything I could to get some like attention. But I still, that's like, that is actually weird enough deep inside of me. But I always sent him like a friendly thought when something nice, at least in my career, happened, which have luckily happened a few times. Like, and because I always, the first thought is always like, as I said about borderline being black and white, I'm like, he hurt me. Now, like, I'm gonna like pull him on social media and tell him, see, I told you, you're just stupid. And then when I'm like calm down again, and then I think probably about it, I'm like, well, he's probably right, and I understand his frustration. But I did also have a classroom teacher, I think it's called, right, like a designated one, and he also saw something in me, and he pulled me aside and did a lot of things. And back then, I was, nobody believed it. I was a quite a big talent in badminton, and had an option to go like it's called Danish Badminton College, and he actually helped a lot to try and see if I could get there. And then unfortunately there were no like support from the like financial support, so it wasn't really an option. And I remember we had many chats with him. He tried to make like a youth contract with me. You need to come to school and you need to not drink, and all these things. But the positive thing is it sent me to like, let's call it boarding school, right, after school, like you say in Danish. And and that was also kind of a game changer for me, because I think I learned to be a little bit myself there. But another funny story is, I think I was kicked out after 10 days for drinking. But yeah, but luckily only for like 3 days. And then I met a guy called Uffe, and he also means a lot. Another like designated teacher for me, and he changed my life with a few words. Actually, I think it's so like big to say, but it really did, because I also had like, no, I'm gonna be a biker or criminal. That's my plan. I want to be something that people are scared of. And he just looked me in the eyes and he said like, come on, Torben, you don't have it in you. You know, you can, yeah, but he said like that, Thomas, like, you can fool everybody, but not me. It's like, that's not even close to who you are. You're like, you have too much love, kind of. It's hard to like translate directly, right? And it's kind of like grew inside of me, and I like dropped my like, at least over for him, and probably also for everybody else now. But on the other hand, it also meant that every weekend we would start drinking, and this is where I definitely realized that being this uncertain boy, which I am still today, if you ask people outside, that not even some close friends, they're like, no, you're like the most confident guy. Yeah, I probably is extremely confident in something I'm familiar with, or like know something about, but my self-esteem, that's nothing. It's gone. I'm working with it, but I am a scared little boy inside, and that I had also back then. But when I like figure out alcohol, because alcohol is my number one kind of choice, if there's like free for all the shelves, but it takes away my uncertainty, and I can be the funny guy. I can be all these kind of things, and it used to. I need to say, of course, right? But and that worked fine actually for a period, and I got a girlfriend there, and to some degree it worked quite good. I started as an electrician. I suck at math, but for some weird reason, and thanks to my the company owner, he got me through it. And but then again, I think, what was I, 21? Actually, it's the first time I went into this hierarchic system, and it was really really bad, because looking back it was about alcohol, but I got caught in a system where they wanted to give me all kind of diagnosis, and at the end of the day it was drugs and alcohol. I have no doubt, but they asked, do you speak with yourself, yeah, sounds good. And I got bipolar, I got OCD, I got schizotypical something, and I even was, and it's true, I was offered early pension at 21, and which is quite uncommon, but with all the weird different diagnoses. And I was fluing in on red and yellow paper, the red and green papers actually back then. And to be honest, if I feel back in my story, it's also because it's nice. There were some people that gave me some attention, and even I had 6 months left of my education as an electrician. He he even let me stay at the facility, and I was being picked up there every morning, and I finalized my education. And then overnight, I just stopped being in that system. I also stopped with the antipsychotic medicine. I never touched it ever, actually, after. And me and my first girlfriend, we split, and I had this dream of being a journalist. And then I think it's important to get to that point, because I started on a college degree because I wanted to be a journalist. So I kind of dropped everything I had, and started to get my college degree so I could be a journalist. But that was a disaster. The only good thing was I met a girl that later would become my wife. But the partying and stuff like that, it was my second youth, right? So that was a bad choice. But again, another environment I could hire in that, but it didn't last that long. I had to stop, first of all, because I bought my first property, and education money is not really covering that part. And then because I was pulled over by a police car with 2.8 in promille, I think it's also said in English, right? I didn't have a driving license, and by coincidence, somebody said you should go to Norway and build some oil platforms. And I actually went there. I continued with my girlfriend. There were 4 years between us. She was 17, I was 21 or something like that, and actually had some good things going on. And at some point, somebody called me saying wind turbines underwater. Tom, that's the next big thing. And I was no, you cannot build wind turbines underwater. I know it's quite common today, but it actually wasn't at that point. And I was yeah, why not? Let me try it out. And that actually was the introduction to an industry where I'm not gonna point fingers, but it's I could hide, and I had a work pattern where I could get things to function actually, because first of all, I would work offshore, which means I couldn't touch alcohol or drugs for 4 weeks in a row. And then when I was home, I could always, in the beginning at least, say I was young, and also I need to get some steam out of my system. And it worked quite good for a long period, and we had we ended up being together 10 to 12 years or something. We got married when I was 30, and at that point, actually, I had a huge, not huge, I had a good position in Dong, and was it's called Ørsted today, right? And and it was okay, but already 5 years earlier, it's the first time I'm going to an AA meeting when I was 25. And this is where I haven't accepted I had a problem. But you obviously you don't go to AA meeting at 25 unless you have a feeling, right? So I knew it was too much.
Who put you on to AA?
I honestly did by myself. I Googled it, and I showed up in a church, and I remember I was crying. It was like the most weird and beautiful experience at the same time. I still like I can feel it now here because like the lightning. I think it was winter, and going into a room where I knew nobody. It was at 25 years old, and everybody's like, "Hi, I'm an alcoholic." I'm like, "Hi, Torben," but I said it already in my first meeting ever. And I wish I got a hold of it back then. Actually, yeah, now I'm regretting something. Yeah, I cannot do that. But yeah, but I was there a few times. But then at some point, it also kind of, or I happened to myself. I convinced myself I didn't have a problem, and also my girlfriend slash wife. I kept like convincing her as well. And then I would have a break for like, I never hit 6 months, but I got close a few times. And then at some point, I think I just gave up, and then I drank. But as I said, I was in a job where I could like kind of hide it. Um, and and then there's like a life change. Sorry, I need to get something to drink quickly. Like
Yeah,
2 seconds.
of course.
Um, No, then actually when I was in like stationed in Belgium, I flew there like 5 days a week, and on one way home from one of like our company dinners, I was actually assaulted by like some kind of Eastern Europe gang actually, and the thing here is, and probably something I should look into, is that when I tell it, it's a story for me because it's not something I can kind of recall. Uh, it's like something that didn't happen actually. And now it's not that long time ago. I had a therapy session where she asked me about it. I do remember one feeling, and that was that like feeling of I was about to say being raped, but it's the wrong word. It's like somebody else having your life in your hands.
Mm.
Because I honestly, I'm not going in detail, but I was like, these were like also drug addicts, and obviously I put myself in a risky situation, like always. It's like I'm like going in that direction when I could, right? So I went to a dodgy area, start drinking with these people, and in the beginning everything was fun, and I got my adrenaline shot out of it, and until they also got a little bit like psychotic, and they would like kind of torture me with a knife around my eyes and stuff like that, and suddenly they accused me of raping that one girl in that like gay 5 6 group of like people, right?
Mm.
um and and long story short, I managed to get away at some point when I could feel they were like not holding on so much, and I kicked one of the guys down, and then I just ran, and then all kind of things happened. I had to inform the job, and luckily in Belgium you have like photo surveillance everywhere, so it was just not me being too drunk. And I was flown home, and this is where my like abuse kind of also changed, because I just wanted to get back as quick as possible to work. I went to this crisis psychologist for once, like one time, and then I can almost tell you the day and date in my apartment in Belgium where like I took a brown leather, like this beer, drank it, and I felt like instantly I felt it working on me. It took everything away, the panic attacks and everything. And this is why it's completely changing for me also with the woman I'm married with, because then it becomes a real abuse, because then I at that time I'm working to this, I guess I can say Vestas, right? I don't want to mention too many company names, but I work 2 weeks and 2 weeks off because I'm getting fired actually, because I'm being captured in a dodgy area drinking again shortly after I'm back on work, and we had an agreement that I shouldn't. So it's the first time and ever I've been fired. But then I moved to Vestas, and then I would have 14 days at home, and we got married. One of the few things I'm extremely proud of is that I got married sober. Um, but then the 14 days at home, actually work wasn't that bad because I could partying, I could drink, and that was fine. And I'm really good in like a routine environment, and that would be like 12 hours work days, drinking in the evening, go in bed, making sure you were like ready next day. But the 14 days at home, and still with like kind of all my emotions inside me, it didn't work. So in the beginning, good classic sorry, a good classic story, right? With me, like I started to drink in the morning, and then I went to bed around uh, midday because then I could be fresh when she was back from her job. And at some point, I lose the control of that, or actually, at some point, I didn't care anymore because I was also. I think people that don't have that problem, they don't understand that every time I told her I wanted to quit, I believed it myself. You probably know, like the rest of us, right? That we do believe it when we say it. I think I just didn't like knew what to do, and it just like goes downhill there. I'm like waking up in like youth biker clubs, and I'm finding this like comfort and like community in bars, basically. Almost like a famous person on the west side of Copenhagen, right? That because I would go there, I would find my love there. I would drink alone, but it was not my thing. I needed people like around me, and I felt love when I went to a bar and they would say like, "Hi Torben," and like this people that actually likes me. So, and then I also, as I said, I gave up because and my ex-wife, and I'm kind of grateful for that today. She tried everything. She wrote letters, and I was told that you know I think she at one point thought if we had a kid it could work. And then when we tried that, I was told I couldn't have kids, which I told you I have one now, so I can tell you that one. But but she tried everything and she moved out, and at some point I think she finally gave up because she would scrape me up on the floor and I would be like missing for days, just like cocaine, several bottles of vodka, and when she finally left, and this is one of the things I feel the most guilty about, I completely lost it. But she was also so used to my like, it took more and more to get a reaction from her because she was just being used to me to being more and more crazy. And at some point she finally like pulled the plug and left me. And the last time I saw her were when we were like basically handing over the keys to the house we bought together. And and that feels weird. It feels like I lived a separate life. But then a lot of money went to my bank account. I bought a small a colony, like a small vacation house in Copenhagen, right? And I just started drinking. And I think at that point I just wanted to die somehow underneath, right? And and somehow, at least for a long period, I managed to keep my job. But at the end, I couldn't even get myself to the airport to go to job. I missed that a few times, and it then actually like a lifesaver. I moved apartment, and for some weird reason, they like sent me to Taiwan, and it was just before the Corona epidemic hit. And then I was sitting down there alone, and at least then I could drink some in some kind of peace. I wasn't really like good at my job back then. I had at least one day I never showed up a week, but it was not that big a control, I thought, until my new boss from Vestas called me, and I'm that person I'm also grateful because he was like, I remember the phone call. He called me and he said in so many different ways, I know you got divorced and I know you lost your best friend because actually in the middle of all this craziness in my small house, one of my really closest friend, he dies of a heart attack in my living room, basically, because of too much drinking and cocaine. I do not blame myself because I have a feeling he's been like going on it a few days before he entered my living room. But still, I still feel his spirit about you saying with PTSD, right? Um, so that was like the weirdest, but that like he asked in so many ways, and then when I hang up, I was just denying everything. And when I hang on the phone from Taiwan, I think I sipped almost half a bottle of Jägermeister in one, and then I called him back, and I was like, you know what, I have a problem. And he was just like so like I don't even know what to put words on it. He was just like, "Let's get you home, Torben. Let's make a plan for you." And I remember my ex-wife. She was like begging to get me in like 24-hour rehab, and I just been refusing. And then I went home, 40 days of vacation, non-stop drinking like crazy and drugs. But I came to this like treatment facility, rehab, and I thought everything would be fine there. I even had this weird idea that my ex-wife would come back, like she was be waiting for me, kind of. I didn't realize how many bridges I burned getting to that point, right? And also felt that I just had to show up. So 6 weeks in rehab, and also realizing that my ex-wife absolutely didn't want anything to do with me. Um, and actually, I think I need to get away. I was so sick when I was in Taiwan. I would be like threatening her with the craziest thing, and that still makes me sad today. If she was, I don't know, and I also don't want to reach out to her to ask if she was scared of me in that period. I hope not, but I was really sick there. I couldn't like recognize myself, and that scares me and makes me sad today. But on the other hand, I don't want to reach out to her. Maybe in some steps program at one point, right? But at least not now. Um, but I went to that, and I'm not lying. The day after I came out, I started drinking again, and I used 6 weeks to explain everybody how AA worked and all these things, and it went so fast, and then yeah, I tried to go back. My company was really large. They sent me back again. I was there 3 4 days, and then I just like escaped. And from then I was like, now there's no way back. I'm like, now I'm going all in to see if I can like kind of drink myself to death, I think. And in all of this storm, I got a contact to for example my current girlfriend, and I don't know, I realized that I had to do something. So and actually one of the guys I was in rehab with the first time, me and him, we were drinking, and he's actually also dead today. We were extremely close. You get close when you speak about your deepest feelings for 6 weeks. And we drank together, and I called all rehab facilities and see if I could like get there and bring him with me. And I finally found this place over in Jutland where he was like, no, you cannot come together. It's like it's not gonna work. And I was like, but we're dying if we don't do anything. And he was like, then we need to try it, and I'm grateful. So I went there, and I did the 5 6 weeks, and this is where I finally figured out what to do, even though it's impossible to put words on, right? But for me, it's kind of that simple, that I need to be completely honest in everything I do. I cannot build up that famous backpack, and I basically need to do a few things. I do read every morning, for example, and I'm reminding myself, and I'm just being a decent human being, because the guilt or the overthinking, that's at least my own idea what drives me into alcohol, pills, whatever. As I said, I think for me it could be porn, whatever. I kind of don't care, as long as I can be over in that and not inside myself. But I learned to be in myself, and I learned to not stress, and that inner child therapy I tried there, and I learned that I was about to become my biggest fear, kind of. I was becoming that big black monster, that like frightened me so much in my own childhood. And I think all those things combined was like a game changer for me. Søren, which I loved him basically like a brother, right? He left after 5 days, and maybe it was a blessing in disguise, because the first 5 days I used a lot of energy. I was like the strong of me and him. They even allowed him to sleep in my room. um, but and we all the same, and we all but say still we have different stories, right? And he couldn't make it work, and he had a lot of things. I don't want to like go too much in details, but he continued, and one day his mom called me, and I just knew it, that what happened. So it's like two of my closest friends are not here anymore, and I'm sometimes wondering why I am. And also, when I start overthinking, it was my body built differently, because with some of the amounts of drugs and alcohol and days I've been awake, I shouldn't be here. It's Yeah, it scares me to think about. To be honest, it's yeah. I guess I'm almost in the end here, but maybe not. I think it's important because today it's so famous to say that I'm identifying. I'm identifying as an alcoholic, and then I added addict, and that is because I have 7 months and 4 days of clean time, and that's because I learned that pills in when I had surgery in my shoulder is the same, and it led me into 2 days of drinking. So almost 5 years with no alcohol, but only 7 months and 4 days with no pills actually. So I'm still newly clean. I call it. It took a while to to accept to call myself addict because I've been calling myself alcoholic for so long. But yeah,
You said you met, if I understood it right, you met your current girlfriend while you were still active.
yeah, and I think we managed to drink one or twice together. It's like I met her many years ago. Obviously, funny enough, she was a bartender, right? And then I met her just before like my final rehab, just like a friend. And then in that rehab, I also start to clean up and things. I had another girlfriend at that time, which was like more like a really good friend, like a friend to me. And when I'm saying also for addiction, I'm addicted to relationship, right? So I always been like going from one to another because I like being alone. It's like probably also one of my things, right?
Mm.
So I realized, as I said in there, I also need to like not be in a relationship just to be in a relationship. She's of course still and today is a lovely person, but it was I was there for the wrong reasons. So I got that cleaned up, and then my current girlfriend, at some point after that, we obviously became a couple. Maybe this is kind of crazy, and I almost don't believe it myself. As I said, I was told I couldn't have kids. I actually have it on my diagnosis that I can have kids. And when we started dating, I had a project up in the northern of Sweden. I was there for like 12 weeks in a row, wasn't in Denmark, and she flew up there after 6 weeks visiting me. And and on that day, she obviously you do what the couples dating doing, and a few weeks later she called me like, I went like overtime, and she took a test, and we were like FaceTiming, and she showed me like the smallest, like maybe I need to say before this I went through a 6 months of like investigation in the big hospital in Copenhagen, Rigshospitalet, right?
Mm.
And this is after I kind of also like stopped drinking, and at the final like check-in with the doctor running this, it's like a science program for why guys can't have kids, and maybe there's some new techniques. So I just volunteered to like help other people actually. And she said in the final meeting like, yeah, but have you like considered fertility? I said, but we've been through that, that's why I'm here, it's impossible. And she's like, you're like final example are showing you have like 1 out of 10 millions to do it like the normal way, but fertility definitely is something you should like consider. And then in the complete old school normal way, she actually managed to get pregnant that day. And it's like, yes, as I said, it's so crazy.
Mm.
6 months sober, and yeah, I have a beautiful daughter today. She just turned 3, right? And yeah, it's so stupid to think what comes to you when you do nothing. Yeah,
Yeah, but when you keep on the right path, things usually happen.
yeah, and that's the thing, right? I thought my life was over,
Mm.
and I thought a few times, and if I just don't drink and don't do drugs, and I just take one day at a time, actually, I kind of ended up where I have a really good job today. Also, I'm in a position where I can. My dad are extremely sick right now, and I also, you probably know, feel that people are concerned if like would he take a relapse, and I'm like, but I'm actually just extremely grateful that I can be present, because if I was drinking or was taking some kind of pills, I wouldn't be able to help him. Actually, I would just take more to avoid thinking about it, because that's my experience, right? So yeah.
Well, congratulations with your new life and family and everything. And
Thank you.
actually found you on Facebook because you were out holding a lecture somewhere else. And I've been messaging people that wanted to come on my podcast, and you messaged me back, and that was kind of that was awesome. And this is the first time I'm listening to your story. Of course, I read a little about you on your Facebook page, but as I can see, you're out holding a lot of lectures. What does that give you? Does that give you anything? Being able to share your story with other people?
Yeah, definitely. It's the one you probably saw is probably the biggest I ever like held for almost 100 people. But that's not important for me. It started out with like this like classroom hour, and for me, yeah, it's just actually I'm just telling myself, if one person or like one kid doesn't have to go through what I did, or maybe stop it earlier, then you know it's worth it. And also say like it's not for them, it's for me to remind myself, and also why we're having this chat. And thank you very much for that. As I said, it's really nice sometimes to go through it, because we're touching some topics that are a little bit sensible, but so I'm always not going there, but it's nice here and there to touch that. And yeah, it is just rewarding, and I think that's what it's about, right? Like passing it on to the next one.
Mm.
And and at least I think Denmark also have a sick alcohol culture, right?
Mm.
It's like, from, yeah, see, now my age is getting off track, but it's like when I got sober, I was like, what do people do on vacations? I had like no clue, you know. It's yeah, and it shouldn't be like that. So I hope just one person gets something out of it, and maybe even also watching this, right? And what all the things you're doing, Thomas. It's my story is like water compared to yourself, right? So
No,
but
don't say that, because we're all different, and you've probably been through some things that I think is it's terrible, and things that I think is terrible, you might think, oh, that's nothing compared to other things. So it's
yeah,
you can't really compare tragedies and trauma. But I'm glad that we are able to have this conversation, and we are both on the right path. I, like you, I have the same thing with. I need to tell my story, otherwise I can't live with all the things I've been through. I have to use
yeah.
it in a positive way to help others. Otherwise,
Hmm.
it would be too evil to live with for my as I believe it. So me going out, holding lectures, writing books, and everything, it gives me a lot, and I don't know if you noticed it, but the thing that helps me most with holding lectures is the questions I get afterwards, because there are
Hmm.
a lot of people that ask me questions that I didn't think about myself, because they are coming with their background and they think differently than I do. So that's the best therapy for me, actually, being reminded of stuff I wouldn't have thought about myself. Have you had those
Yeah.
kind of experiences?
Yeah, and I did last time. This like let's say uncertain like insecurity boy like just raised his hand up in front of these 100, and he was like, "What are the most important for you, Torben?" And it was so beautiful, because it just like, and this is obviously somebody else before me said, but it's like the easiest thing is to say my daughter, right? But no, it's to be clean and sober every morning.
Mm,
And then I like, because if I don't do that, the rest kind of doesn't matter in my situation.
mm,
You know, there are normal people out there, but and as you said, it was I was like blown away, like, wow, this is like, what is he, 13, 14, right? And then it like took me to that conclusion. So, and a clever man told me the same, so it was perfect.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you for your story, Torben. I hope it will be a lecture for a lot of people. And keep up the good work. And to all the rest of you listening out there, don't have a good day. Have a great one. See you next time. Bye.